Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Transformational Journey, Module 6. This is about healthy attitudes for everybody. So in this next hour, what we're going to discuss is a general overview of your body, your health, nutrition, and just allow you to just reflect on what is going on in your life right now, where you're at, what it is that you need to do, what can you change, what can you improve, and what you need to keep doing. So it's just about having a think of what you're doing right now that has everything to do with health. Because remember, you can have all the money in the world, you can have the most perfect house, the most perfect job, the most perfect everything. If your health fails you, you have nothing. So let's start this and let's take a look and see. So we start off by looking at what is your relationship with your body. Now, I find this quite interesting that people will treat their bodies, it is something that belongs to you, but they'll treat it as if they can take it or leave it. But the truth is, and if you really think about it and it makes sense, is that the body that you've got is the best that you're going to get. So if you're not going to look after it, it's not like you can go halfway through your life and say, you know what, this body is just not doing it for me and I need to upgrade. You've got to make your body work for you. You've got to have the good relationship with your body that makes you feel good about yourself. Now, what I often see with my clients is that they become quite conditional with their bodies. In other words, they'll say, I'm going to be happy with my body when I get fit. Or when I've lost the weight that I don't want, then I will like the way I look. I will like my body. So therefore, they're setting conditions constantly for the relationship that they're going to have with their body, rather than saying, you know what, this is my body and I love and respect my body, and therefore I need to honor it, I need to take care of it, and I need to look after it and make sure that it stays healthy, because this body allows me to live. This body allows me to function in my life and allows me to do the things that I want to do and to have the pleasures in the world that I want to have. So therefore, I need to look after this body of mine and make sure that it is healthy. And then, once you start being happy with your body, you may not then like what you're putting into your body. You may not like the lack of exercise or not enough exercise. And therefore, you'll start to treat your body differently and look after it in a different way. So the thing that I want to cover the most, because this has everything to do with our bodies, is about the disease that happens and how diseases happen, because this will start to give you an indicator of where you are on the health scale and start to give you some ways of looking at yourself and saying, what do I need to do? What do I need to change? So I want you to imagine that there's only one disease, and it's called a cellular malfunction. So what happens is that something in your body, the cells in your body start to malfunction. They don't work properly. And as a result of that, as this malfunction develops, it starts to manifest itself in a particular way. And when it does that, then we can look at it and say, oh, this person's got heart problems, this person's got cholesterol, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, cancer, whatever it may be. So when this malfunction in the body progresses, we can then start to see a manifestation of a particular way, and then we can actually label it. Now, labeling it is important from the point of view that at least we know what we are targeting with and what we need to fix. But at a much, much higher level, what you're looking at is a cellular malfunction. So there are certain things that happen in order for us to have a cellular malfunction that creates then the dis-ease. So if we start to look at that, there's only really two things that are causing the cellular malfunction. And the first one is deficiency. So when your cells lack something that they need in order to function in the way that they're designed, they start to become deficient. So a cell, to be healthy, will need certain things. It'll need air, oxygen, it'll need water, it'll need nutrition. So when it doesn't get something that it needs in order to function better, it starts to become deficient. The other thing that happens is that we have toxicity. And toxicity is where the cells in your body are poisoned by something that inhibits proper function. So there's some poison that comes into your body that actually poisons those cells. And by poisoning those cells, they inhibit their functions and therefore they don't function properly. As a result of not functioning properly, they start to cause malfunction. And of course, from there you have the progression, which is then your disease. So when you're looking at those two, our body cells will only die for those two reasons. Is if they don't get everything that they need to function properly, or if they get poisoned by something that they do not need, then they will start to malfunction, and therefore they'll start to cause the breakdown of the cell, which brings then the disease. So provided that it gets all the nutrients, the water, the air, and we protect them from poison, we should stay healthy. And therefore that will stop disease, that will stop aging process to a large extent, and it will allow us to live a long and healthy life and die of natural causes, rather than get to a certain age where the body cannot cope anymore, because the body is incredibly good at clearing out and taking rid of toxins and repairing itself, but it can only do that to a certain level, and then it can't any longer. So we have to support it by living a healthy life. And if we do that, then you'll see that we can get to a healthy age and eventually die naturally, rather than die from a disease because the body can't cope anymore. So let's start to look at ways that we can support that, and also ways where we notice how this causes deficiency and toxicity. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is an obvious one to most people, is nutrition. Now, what causes a deficiency in the cells and even toxicity is malnutrition. So never before have we had nations, especially in the first world, where we are overfed but undernourished. So when we think about malnutrition, we always think about the populations that starve around the world, that they haven't got enough food, and therefore they are skin and bone with big bellies and starving to death. So that's what we kind of term as malnutrition. But today, malnutrition has changed, because what's happening is that we have people that are eating a lot of food that is not nutritionally correct or rich or even sufficient. And as a result of that, the body, the cells don't get what they need. A lot of the food will actually poison the cells, and therefore it causes deficiency and toxicity, which causes a cellular malfunction. So it becomes common knowledge and common sense that what one has to do is have to analyze your diet and say, am I eating properly? Am I eating correctly? How much of what I'm eating is natural? There's a thing, if you read the works of Thomas Campbell in the book The China Study, he has a principle that says that you hold it in your hand, you hold food in your hand from when you're going grocery shopping, and you ask the question, has this been processed or is it natural? If it's processed, you put it back on the shelf. If it's natural, you then ask yourself, is this something that is grown in my area? Is it organic? Is it sort of okay? So in other words, it's not rotting or anything, in which case then you can take it. Now, I do know that because we live in this sort of very fast-paced world, and this is the first world, we have a lot of food and fruit and vegetables from all over the world. So we are not that restricted to having seasonal vegetables and fruit. So therefore we are eating, our bodies are a little bit confused, because we are actually made to eat seasonally. So back when we were designed, if you think about it, there was no sort of world transportation, and if it was winter time, you wouldn't be eating cucumbers and tomatoes. Having said that, I still think that if you do your best in order to be able to get organic food and food that is well grown, and it's healthy and it's done in the best way, you're still actually taking care of your nutrition, in the sense that it is high in nutrition, high in minerals and vitamins. So therefore you're feeding the cells as best as possible. The other thing that we have to look for in nutrition as well, though, is not just only about how good is our food, but we also need to look and see, how do we prepare the food? So you need to also consider, what do you do? Because you can take perfectly good vegetables and deep fry them, and by that time they're finished and cooked, you've actually made them redundant, because the high levels of heat in the oil will actually take away any sort of nutritional value. So you need to also sit down and ask yourself, how much of what I'm eating is healthy? How much of what I'm eating is natural rather than processed? And what kind of cooking methods am I engaging in that allow me to make the best use of the nutritional value in the foods? So something to just start to look at, so that you are going to be eating, but you're not being undernourished by the food that you're having. The next one that we're looking at is toxins. So toxins come in various forms. For instance, there's toxins in the air, and some of those toxins are caused by our transportation, car fumes, air transportation, but there's also with our fertilizers in the fields. There's toxins coming out of factories, out of our houses for heating. So there's all sorts of toxins in the air, and a lot of what we're doing, we cannot help. There's nothing that we can do about it. It's not like we can stop cars from traveling or stop the farmers from fertilizing their crops. So then you have to ask yourself, what can I do in order to help my body to detox itself in times like that? So you just have to ask yourself, well, what can I do to support my body in order to get rid of the toxins? So one of the ways, if you think about that, the way that our body naturally eliminates toxins, it will be through sweat, it will be through breathing, it will be through throwing up, so getting rid of through the stomach. Of course, it is the elimination by having diarrhea, and of course it's also your skin. So a big part of your skin, your body will just push out all the toxins. So when you think about, and something that's going to come up just now about physical exercise, when we run, when we exercise, when we exert any sort of, get our heartbeats up, we start to sweat, we start to breathe in a different way, and therefore we are actually not only getting ourselves fit, but we're also helping our bodies from being able to get rid of any toxins and clean out. The next one, of course, and is probably one of the most important ones, is the psychological deficiency. So for instance, our thoughts create our emotions, and this is something that you went through last week, and these emotions create behaviors. Now, in order for the body to know what the message is, we get the chemicals, we get the chemical solutions that it gets made in our brain that then come into the bodies and tell every cell and every organ how to behave and what to do. Now, these thoughts trigger a cascade of chemicals. So when these chemicals are chemicals that are not resourceful for us, in other words, are more toxic, when we have an accumulation of that in our body because we are worrying a lot, we are stressing a lot, we are being anxious, then it starts to actually build up in a way that is toxic for us. And that toxicity will cause cellular malfunction. By doing that as well, I mean, there's a lot of evidence now that stress produces, it's a natural chemical, but when you have high levels of that and they build up in your body and they become toxic, they also deplete the body from certain nutrients. And when it does that, that's when you become deficient. So stress not only brings a lot of toxicity into your body that accumulates around, especially around your stomach area, but it also takes away a lot of your nutrients. It robs away nutrients from you. So therefore your body, although you're eating, you become deficient, and therefore you start to become undernourished. So anything, and stress is absolutely known for reducing your immune system because it attacks your body in such a way. So it's not a bad thing to stress, and we've said this before, and it's not a bad thing to feel any of the unresourceful emotions, but it isn't good for you when you hold on to these emotions and allow your body to constantly be cascading all these emotions and accumulating in your body, robbing away the nutrients, causing both toxicity as well as deficiency. There's an interesting work by Joe Dispenza in Evolve Your Brain, and if you follow his work, he went to investigate and find out how did people that have cancer were able to just get rid of that cancer and have a complete remission and be able to live well. So the curiosity was, well, do they eat different foods? Did they change their diets when they found out they were sick? Or did they change their lifestyle? Did they start exercising more? What were they doing specifically? Is it where they were living? So what was it specifically that helped them cure? And also the people that weren't getting these diseases, what was it about their lifestyle that helped them keep that away? And the most common denominator that they found was thought. It was the way that they thought about themselves, the way that they thought about life, the way that they thought about what was going on, what was possible, and what the body could do. So the thought will actually translate, and it's again something that we've talked about earlier on, that everything that we do twice. So when you're thinking good things and you're thinking of healing and you're thinking of health in your body, that then translates itself into the body, creating just the right chemicals to assist the body to be able to detox itself naturally and to keep itself healthy. So very, very important to look at the psychological effects and ask yourself, is what I'm thinking helping me? Is it keeping me healthy? Is it being supportive to my system? The next one is physical, and we touched a little bit about this in toxins. Now, physical should be used to enhance and to make your life feel better. And the physical part is not just about exercise. When we're looking at physical, we're looking at the way that we walk, the way that we sit. We're looking at sleep. So you have to ask yourself, is the way that I'm walking, the way that I'm carrying my bags, the way that I'm standing up, sitting down, is all of that in a way that makes me feel good? Have a look, or ask yourself, how does my neck and shoulders feel? Do they feel smooth? Can I move them easily? Or you're starting to get stiff? Do you get neck pains? Do you get shoulder pains? What is going on with your physical body? Of course, you have to ask yourself, am I fit? Am I doing some level of fitness? Now, contrary to the belief that you have to really, really exercise like crazy in order to be healthy, what they're finding out now is that if you're combining different exercises, so for instance, you'll be doing a squat and then you're doing something with your tricep, they found that was more natural for the body, because what the body does, when you think about it, we don't just do one movement, we do a combination of movements. So when you start to do smaller and lesser exercises that are combined, it starts to allow the body to move in a natural way. Also, we are not meant to do sort of 1 hour of intense training and then nothing for the rest of the day. We are made in a way that we function better and get healthier if we have interval training. So therefore, if you think about it, is that we'll sit down, we'll do something, then we'll get up, we'll walk, we'll go to the fields, we'll dig a little bit, then we come out, then we maybe pick a few things. So we're constantly going stop, go, and we are constantly in a combination of physical movements. So when you start to mimic what we were initially made for, you start to keep your body supple, stretched. I mean, stretching again is one of the most vital things to do. If you look at babies, if you look at animals, when they wake up without any prompting, the most natural thing that they do is to stretch. But as we grow up and as we grow older, we tend to stop doing that. And slowly, it all starts to catch up. And this is the tricky thing with the physical part, is that if we, when we're kids, we naturally have higher levels of energy. So you'll naturally see kids jumping and skipping and running, and they're very, very active. And as we grow up, we start to slow down more and more. And it's quite common for people to stop most exercise when they leave school and enter sort of secondary education, or actually when they start working. Now, in the first 5 to 10 years, you may not feel too much of the repercussion of that. So, some weight might come on, you may lose a little bit of muscle tone and things like that. But it is over a long period of time, like everything else, it's over a long period of time where you start to see the counter effects of not doing what you were meant to do. So therefore, it is important that you keep your physical levels high and well, not high, but consistent, ongoing. And even if that means that you just go for a walk, keep yourself going, keep yourself moving, and allow yourself to stay healthy. Make sure that you sleep properly, that you get lots of exercise, and you keep moving. Now the big question is, well, what about genetics? I mean, what if I've got some genes in my body that just do this for me? What happens with that? What do I do about the genes? Now, contrary to belief, a lot of people blame what they've got on their genes. They say, well, it's not my fault. This is in my family. That's not my fault. This is what's happening here. I've got this from my mom. I've got this from my grandfather. And therefore, they let go of the responsibility that they've got and they blame it on the circumstances. And therefore, they become powerless to do something about it. So here's my thoughts on genetics. And this is what I have found. I've done a lot of research around genetics because I want to know, is there something that we can do? So Thomas Campbell talks about a really nice metaphor that I'm going to share with you. If I had a packet of seeds, grass seeds, if I left them in the packet, I know that they could never grow. They're just impossible to grow. However, if I planted those seeds in desert sand, they still wouldn't grow. Now, if I put some water in the desert sand, they might grow. They might grow a little bit, they might struggle, but there might be some growth. But if I plant them in really fertile soil, they've got a much better chance of growing. And if I make sure that that fertile soil gets well watered, then even better so. Now, when those grass seeds start growing in that fertile, well-watered soil, I have to then maintain it. I have to constantly be cutting the grass, making sure that it is trimmed and all of that. Because if I don't, those grass seeds will overtake my garden to the point where they will actually, it will even break pathways. It can even go into the foundations of the house. And over time, so not a week or two or a year, but over a couple of years or 10 years, 20 years, it can actually completely damage a house structure. That's how strong those tiny little seeds can be. So I want you to think about genes in the same way. If you're born with a certain genetic makeup, and let's be honest, each human being is genetically unique. Genes are the blueprints of our life. And with genes, a lot of people, like I said earlier, feel they don't have a say. Then, But if you think about that genes in the same way as the grass seeds, if they don't get activated, nothing happens to them. So if you have a particular gene from a family trait, but you don't live the lifestyle that will activate it, it doesn't get activated because it doesn't have the right environment to grow. So like everything else, genes will be activated by the way that we live, the way that we think, the way that we eat, the way that we move. So all these other aspects that we've talked about, nutrition, toxicity, psychological aspects, and the physical aspects, will all generate or activate genes or not. So the question then comes is, well, what are you going to do about it? So it would be nice if we were born and we were given this like little sort of diagnosis to say, you've got these genes and therefore you need to live this kind of life and avoid these foods and eat a lot of those foods. But it doesn't happen that way. We don't actually get that little breakdown. So what we have to do is something different. We have to live more proactively in order to be able to ensure that we will be okay and that we won't activate any possible diseases through the genes. So the last one is medical. Now, medical is a bit of a controversial one because, let's be honest, for most of the doctors that we know, and I say most, their intention and the reason that they got into medicine is because they care about people, because they're curious about the science behind it. They want to, progress and be able to help people heal from diseases and things like that. So therefore, the intention behind medical has always been one of curiosity, a science curiosity, as well as one of helping people. But for the same token, and especially today because of what's going on generally speaking in the world and with people suing each other so much, medical world, the doctors that we work with, have got limitations. They can only work with what they know, what has been proven and what has been allowed by the FDAs and all of that. So therefore, they've got some limitations to what they can do. They can only work with what has been approved. And for the same token, doctors are human beings as well. And with all the right intentions in the world, they too can make mistakes and misdiagnose. So quite often when we're looking at medical, it's not unheard of for us to hear that a doctor gave wrong medicine to someone or misdiagnosed a problem and therefore gave wrong treatment. So not often, but it is there in the medical world where the misdiagnosis and therefore the wrong medicines or just wrong procedures that have been done will create a deficiency or toxicity in the cellular level, calling a cellular malfunction. And therefore we can look at the medical world as one of the causes as to why we have a problem. So this is giving you a bit of an overview for you to sort of sit back and just think and ask yourself, am I eating correctly? Can I improve that? What specifically can I do to improve that? What is within my reach? When it comes to toxicity, what can I do to help my body detox? What can I do to prevent any further toxins coming into my body? Can I have perhaps filtered water? Can I do more exercise? There's different things that one can do. When it comes to the psychological, of course, it is about creating more resourceful thoughts, starting to feel a lot more happier with ourselves, feeling a lot more empowered with what we do. When it comes to physical, starting to look into the physical, what else can I do? Do I sleep sufficiently enough? Am I getting enough rest? Am I getting enough sunshine? Am I moving enough? So it's just for you to just take a little bit of stock and ask yourself, am I doing the right things? Of course, with genes, there isn't much you can do as far as what genes you've got, but you can ask yourself, am I doing the best that I can to keep them inactive and therefore to keep my body healthy? And last but not least, with medical, I do encourage people to question and to be curious about what is going on in their bodies and to research it and find out what other options they have. So when they go to a doctor or when they've had some diagnosis from the doctor, they're not exactly helpless and to the mercy of the doctor. Other options, what other options? And sometimes the option that the doctor gives you is the best way. Sometimes there's better ways, or maybe there are alternative ways, or sometimes complementary ways. So it is for you to just take that responsibility that this body that you've got is yours, and what you do with it and how you're going to live is going to determine the quality of life you're going to have. So let's look now at a little bit more into health and what does health mean and how is it that we are healthy. And this is something that is quite a surprise to people, is that sometimes they'll look at somebody on the outside and they'll say, well, they look fit, they look healthy, they seem to have very little fat, the good muscle tone, they must be really, really healthy. But what has surprised doctors and scientists is that when, say, young people that look healthy on the outside die for one or other reason and they do an autopsy, very often they see early stages of disease. And they'll see, for instance, clogged up arteries or arteries that are well on the way to getting clogged up. So they see early stages of heart disease. They'll see early stages of diabetes. And very often they'll also see early stages of cancer. So then the question comes in, well, how do we know? Because what this now says is that by the time that the disease has actually manifested itself, it's already been on the way, on the go for many, many years. It's not like, oh, I've just started having a heart problem. It's been in my system and it's been developing and progressing for many, many years. So therefore, what can I do to become a little bit more aware? And the first thing that most people don't know about, but the first thing that gives you a clue that there's something starting is your energy level. So when you start to feel too tired to get up or falling asleep at night, perhaps you're starting to get some headaches, those are all very, very early signs that something in your body is not quite working. So it could be that maybe you're not processing your foods properly and therefore there's a deficiency. As a result of deficiency, your body feels like it hasn't got enough nutrients and nourishments, and as a result of that, it feels depleted. As a result of feeling depleted, you feel tired, lacking energy. Perhaps there's something going on as far as toxicity, which again then does not allow your cells in your body to process food properly, and therefore you're not getting enough fuel. As a result of that, you start to feel tired, lack of energy. So you have to start asking yourself when it comes to your health, How do you feel when you wake up? How do you feel during the day? Are you feeling energized? Do you feel strong? Are you feeling sort of get up and go? Because if you think about it again in the regards of children, children's bodies tend at a young age, most of them, to be very, very healthy because they haven't gone through psychological problems. They haven't been eating for many years in a wrong way. They move a lot, and therefore they have healthier bodies. They are full of energy. And this is the way that it should be. So one of the biggest things that we need to start looking into to be able to have some clues as to what is going on is, how do we feel inside? How do we feel when we are at night? How do we feel when we wake up? Because all of these things will give you a clue to what's going on with your health. So then what we look at is the fitness, and we are not built to sit still. We're not built to just relax all the time and sit on the couch and do as little as possible. Even our eating is designed to be a little bit more, how can I say, a little bit more with fitness. So for instance, if you eat a lot of processed foods, the body doesn't have to do a hell of a lot towards it. Whereas if you eat a lot of raw food, the body has to chew more, it has to digest more, it has to work harder to make it all happen and to get all the vitamins. So even as little as our eating has to do with our fitness. And what raises our metabolic level the most is food and the digestion of food. So therefore it's important when we're looking at how healthy our bodies are, is that we're eating on a regular meals, that we're having the right amount of nutrients, and that we're keeping the body moving. We are not built to sit still. It's just not what we're done to do. And today's world makes it so much easier for us to go by car everywhere, go by train, go by bus, and therefore we don't walk as much as we used to 30, 40 years ago. We sit more in our jobs rather than move in our jobs. So there's a whole lot of things that is going on around us that we just don't do as much. And if we don't stop and recognize that and start to do something about it, we're just going to get year by year more and more unfit, and with that we become unhealthy. So again, is to ask yourself, what can I do? So perhaps you can't go to the gym, it just doesn't fit in with your program, or you don't like it, but you can go and walk. If you read Joanne Hall's books, in getting fit, they reckon, and this is also studies that Paul McKenna did, for a fitness level and to be able to maintain fitness, you need to walk about 7,000 steps a day, which is approximately 1 hour. It's not even that much. And if you look at Joanne Hall's books, she'll say to you that you can split that 1 hour in a 15-minute walk here, 15-minute walk there, and half an hour walk there. So we're not talking major, big sort of commitment here. For weight loss, she advises that you do 10,000 a day, which on a treadmill, for instance, would take you 1 hour and 40 minutes. So when you look at 1 hour and 40 minutes, you think, well, I don't have nearly 2 hours or 1 hour and a half to exercise. And I totally get that. But what you'll notice is that if you start combining and putting a little bit more walking around your life, so in other words, get off a stop earlier or a tube station earlier, perhaps take the dog out more for a walk, or just find the opportunities to walk here and there, stealing 15-20 minutes here and there, and then just have one sort of session where you're walking maybe for half an hour, which is like specifically. You'll be very surprised by the end of the day how many steps you've clocked in. When Paul McKellan was doing the I Can Make You Thin, he went and did a study about people that were naturally thin and people that weren't. And he put pedometers onto them, and he found that on average, so this is not across the board, but on average for most people, the difference between somebody who was more healthy and fit and even mentally healthy as a result of fitness was 2,000 steps. So it's not like, we're talking, you got to go out and do 20,000 steps or something like this. 2,000 steps was the difference. The average person will walk between 4,000 and 5,000 steps a day. And somebody who was a little bit more active and a little bit more fit and a little bit more healthier was walking around about 7. So 2,000 steps. Now here's a challenge for you. I would say go and get a pedometer, nothing expensive, just get a pedometer that will measure your steps and just put it on day in, day out for a week. And every day you put it on in the morning, and before you go to bed at night, you just take it off and log your steps. No criticism at this stage, just log your steps and see how you get on. Then what will happen is on day 7, you add up the 7 days and divide it by 7, and then you come out with your daily average. You'll be surprised at that. Now, sometimes the surprise is like, oh my goodness, this is really bad, because I've heard some of my clients say that the average is 3,500 to 4,000, which then it's no surprise that they're struggling with their fitness, they're struggling with their weight and all of that kind of stuff. I've even had it that people say that the maximum that they do is 4,000, but on average is 2,500 to 3,000 steps a day. So when you start to think that your average good ratio would be about 7,000, you can see where the deficit comes in, and how over a period of time this starts to show up in feeling unhealthy, unfit. Your body gets tired, your body gets stiff, you start to get stiff shoulders, stiff muscles. It just is, it's a roll-on effect. It's like a domino effect. So have a look at your fitness and ask yourself, what is comfortable, what is possible around your life? What is it that you can do that will be comfortable enough for you to achieve, so that you're able to get fitter and to start, being healthier. Of course, another very, very obvious and very easy thing is nutrition. And it's about making healthy choices for yourself. Now, we may not be able to control a lot of stuff in regards to what genes we have and what pollution is going on around us from water and food and the air that we breathe. So we may not have a lot of control around that. Now, I understand in the way that we live today, it's quite difficult to have that. However, we do control what is going on in our mouths and what is happening in our mouth and what we're putting in our mouths. This is all down to us. We are creating that. Nobody is forcing us to eat unhealthy foods. Nobody is forcing us to make bad choices. Now, a lot of the challenges that people will have around food is that they don't have time. And as a result of not having time, they are sort of reduced down to eating on the go. There was a study done by Andrew Austin about people that didn't plan, and not just didn't plan for food, but just didn't plan in general, didn't plan much and worked more organically and sort of, managed moment for moment, hour for hour. And he created a health and weight loss seminar, and he said to everybody that this seminar, the venue is really out in the sticks. It's a beautiful venue out in the open. But be warned, we are not supplying any food and there's no facilities around. So therefore, you need to provide for your lunch. And what he typically saw, and this is one of the big reasons he did it this way, was that people that were naturally more slimmer and healthier actually had their food there. They had some snacks, they had some nuts, they had some vegetables, fruit juices, water. They were sort of well equipped. They didn't have to do anything. Contrary to that, people that aren't as organized and slightly overweight to being overweight, which is one of the reasons they were there, had brought nothing with them. So they get an hour's lunch. They are now forced to get in a car, drive to the nearest town, find parking, get inside, rush in, grab whatever they can off the shelves, get back there, and then have about 10-15 minutes maybe to eat something. As a result of that, they're not making the best food choices for themselves. Now, one of the problems when you're not making the right food choices is that you then don't give your body what it needs, and it starts to play havoc with your insulin levels, sugar levels, and feeling sort of, getting cravings the whole time, which then, of course, starts to roll over into more things and wanting to eat more and creating cravings. So one of the things to be able to combat that is to eat as natural as possible. And this is also where you start to see the benefits of cooking in a certain way. Your body doesn't really care what you put in its mouth. It's not saying, oh, well, I'd rather have a tomato over a banana or over a biscuit. Your body doesn't have that ability to look at that. But what your body does want is vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, fats. It needs certain things in order to be able to feed the cells and keep them healthy. So whether it gets the minerals and the vitamins from a red pepper or whether it gets them from a tomato, it doesn't really care, as long as it gets that. Now, if we don't eat as naturally as possible, what it means is that your body's constantly going to give out craving signals for you to go and find some more food, because it's going, yeah, my tummy's full and that is fine, but 2 hours later I'm still hungry. And what it's really saying is not that I'm still hungry, but I haven't got all the nutritional requirements that I need to feel satisfied, so therefore I need some more food. And this is where that whole sort of chain reaction of eating starts, is that you feel you get cravings, you feel unsatisfied, you feel peckish, you feel all these things. Well, when you start to eat more natural, reducing all your refined sugars, because they are absolutely lethal in your body, and reduce your salt, you start to notice that after a few days your body settles down and it starts to feel really, really happy, and therefore starts to need less food, stops the cravings. And you'd be surprised, and I've heard this so many times where my clients will say, I can't believe how little I'm eating. I'm eating so much less in the sense of the quantity of food, but I feel satisfied. But what I also encourage a lot of my clients to do is to eat more meals, but smaller quantities and healthier. So in other words, more natural foods and more organic, more alive foods type of thing. And what happens is that because the body is regularly getting something, and what it's getting is of high nutritional value, it is being able to feed itself. It doesn't have any cravings. It doesn't have any up and downs with insulin levels. So the sugars are stabilized and they feel calm with that. And therefore they feel so much happier and so much more satisfied. And it just surprises them that with so much less, they can actually go so much further. So the calorie in, calorie out does work. And of course, if you're eating high calorie food that's got low nutrition, it's going to really, really play havoc with your cravings in your body and all that. Having said that, if you're having a very, very high nutritional diet, but the calories are lower than the recommended, that is okay. Because what is really more important is that your nutritional value is high. So if you're eating a lot of raw foods, if you're having a lot of juices and vegetables, you may not be eating the recommended calorie intake, which is okay because your nutritional value is high. However, when a lot of people are having processed foods, one of the ways to be able to control how much we take in so that we don't take too much is through the calorie counting. So this is where that all counts. So it's really up to you to make the right food choices, to be educated and to realize what is going on. And like I said to you earlier on, one of the biggest, most lethal things to eat or drink or put into your body is anything that's refined. So start looking at your labels, start looking to see what's in there. And a rule of thumb, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect in this, but a rule of thumb is if you cannot pronounce it, best you don't eat it. So start to make those choices, that you start to look at your labels. If there's more than 5 ingredients, it starts to become a complex food, more than likely very processed. However, if there's like 5 or less ingredients and you can read all the ingredients, you know exactly what they are, it's more likely to be more natural, more pure, and therefore healthier for you. But also with refined foods, what we're looking for with refined is when things have changed completely in their makeup, in the way that they are. So in other words, if you're looking at white flour, I don't need to tell you that that is very, very refined. In the same way that so is white sugar, white pasta, white rice. White food, generally speaking, should be a little bit of a no-no. Because it is not something that your body recognizes as nutritional. Now, the reason that industries will refine food is because the more refined it is, and here's the shocker, the higher the shelf value. So in other words, if it's very refined, it can last on the shelf. So therefore, it will have a higher price value to the manufacturer, because they can produce something that will last for 2 years. So if people don't buy it for the first 3-4 months, there's no wastage. It will still last. And this is the reason that refined foods have come in. So you now need to ask yourself, if something can last on a shelf for say 2 years and not go off, is that good? So just something to think about. And like I said, make sure that you can read the labels and see, understand what's going on. Okay, the other very, very important part, as we've talked about again, is to find some calm in your day. If you are not on that list of getting yourself sorted out and being calm, you will not get done. Very often people say to me, I know that the idea of meditation, or even if it is just 10 minutes of calm, reflective time where I'm not working, I just don't have the time. And I'm like, come on, 10, 15 minutes? If you don't have 10 or 15 minutes to sit down and just take a deep breath and relax and just allow the day to come to an end and to conclude it, you really need to do something about that. So if you don't have the time, it's urgent that you find the time, because you should be able to just find some time where you completely relax. Because the relaxation, like stress, but in the opposite way, will accumulate very, very good chemicals in your body that help to detox and nourish and soften and to totally calm your body down and therefore help it. Very, very important that we actually find the time in the day to calm down. Recognize, reflect where we are and what we need to do. So you can do this in many, many different ways. For instance, you may just buy some hypnotic CDs or meditation CDs, relaxation CDs, anyone. There's so many out on the market, and just listen to any one of those for the purpose of just relaxing. Some of them are 10, 15 minutes, some of them are half an hour. There are so many out there that all you need to do is just find one that appeals to you. You like the sound, you like the voice, and just follow it and do it. And do it on a daily basis. Find the time. You can also just find some really nice relaxing music that you absolutely enjoy and it soothes you, and you can set the scene. You maybe take a nice cup of tea, put some incense on, and just sit back and just be calm. Allow that calmness to soothe you. You're able to regenerate and to help and assist your body to get healthy again. Perhaps this is the time in your life, or in your day, should I say, that you will reflect back and be grateful. So maybe you'll have a gratitude diary, or you're just going to buy yourself a nice book, a nice journal where every day you just write down some things that you're grateful for. And you don't need to write pages and pages. Perhaps you just allow yourself to think about 5 things that you're grateful for. 5 things that are important to you right now. 5 things that will make a difference. So do that. Find 5 things in the end of the day that you're grateful for. And notice how just allowing yourself, giving yourself that little bit of time, 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes of just calm. Prioritize it, make it important for you, and just put it in there for yourself. Because getting health results that are good, that's what you want. You want to get healthy. You want to be able to wake up in the morning and feel good. You want to be able to have the energy that you need to do the things that you want to do. You want to be able to move and be who you want to be. And all those things is an accumulation of things. It's an accumulation of your physical health. It's about your mental health. It's about what you're doing, how you're living, how you're thinking. All those things collectively will create the kind of environment for you and for your mind and for your body to be able to live well, so that you're able to enjoy everything else that you're doing. Because you're working so hard at building a career, working so hard at building a good home, you've got to keep working hard at having a good body, so that you're able to enjoy the fruits of your hard work, to be able to enjoy the home that you're living in. Otherwise, it's all for nothing. So make sure that you really take this time now and reflect back on all the things that I spoke about and start to make some minor changes, but make them permanent. One of the biggest things that make me sad is that people will have certain targets that will create the changes for those. So in other words, they might be going to a wedding, or they're going on a holiday. So for that holiday or for that wedding, they do their best to get themselves, slim and trim, and therefore they eat well and they eat less and they exercise and do whatever they need to do. And the minute that they achieve their targets, That's like a signal to them to go, oh, I can let go now. I can stop now. I don't have to exercise. I can have my cake again, and I'm going to, binge on the weekend and all that. And that's not what life is about. So you can allow yourself some small, short moments, like maybe go to a wedding and eat what you want to eat. But Sunday, get up and go for a walk again and get back to eating healthy. Allow that more than, we'll say about at least 80% of your life is all about healthy choices, healthy living, healthy moving, so that you're able to maintain your healthy body. Because at the end of the day, it is about making good and bad choices. Now, whatever choice you make, you're going to pay for. And you're either going to pay for it with pain or you're going to pay for it with pleasure. But either way, you will pay. Now, one of the things that people say, this is all fair and well, but I don't have the money to buy healthy food. I don't have the money to go and exercise. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a gym. You can go and walk out in the street. You don't have to spend a lot of money to eat healthy. You just need to know how to eat healthy. And what I find with most people that don't make healthy choices is because they don't allow themselves enough time to prepare good food, or they haven't got they don't know how to cook good food. They don't know how to make healthier options. They only know how to make processed food because that's the easy stuff to do. But that is something, you may say that it's cheaper to not go to the gym and it's cheaper to buy sort of processed food. But when your health goes, you're going to pay for medical expenses. You're going to pay by not being able to enjoy your life. You're going to pay in many different ways. So the good choice is going to save you. Not just pennies, but pleasure. So it is important that you really, really think back and think in the moment about what choices do you have, and make some good choices for you, not for anybody else, but for yourself. Because at the end of the day, what this is all about is that we have vitality, that we are able to live with zest, that we're able to live with energy, that we're able to wake up in the morning and just totally love life and enjoy life. Because if we're not enjoying it, what's it all about? We weren't born to be miserable. We weren't born to live an unhealthy life and to struggle with sore bodies and diseased bodies and a mind that isn't sort of working. Life is living it to the full. So part of being able to achieve living your life to the full is down to you. It's what you are going to do with your life. So I really hope that you're going to stand back, because as much as this is only one little area of this whole program, it's one of the most important, because without this, everything else is meaningless. Without your health, you can't do anything. When you think about people that are sitting in wheelchairs with oxygen bottles, they may be as wealthy as anything, but they can't move, they can't go and enjoy, they can't do what they want to do. They are trapped within this world. So I wish you well. I look forward to hearing your comments, and all the best.